Tomorrow, the Overwatch League returns for its 5th season, ushering in a new era for the league, as for the first time we get to see proper professional play on the beta build of Overwatch 2. As a result, we can look forward to a number of major changes to the game this year, from the fundamental transition of 6v6 to 5v5, a new DPS hero in Sojourn, 4 new maps, and also the removal of the Assault or 2CP game mode, now being replaced by the new game mode that's been introduced, Push. With so many unknowns heading into this season, the Overwatch League looks set to be an incredibly exciting spectacle, and looking ahead to the opening week, I wanted to bring you all my predictions for how I think the teams will fare in their first couple of matches. Before we get into it though, I wanted to draw people's attention to a couple of points that affect week 1 of the Overwatch League. As you will soon notice, there's not going to be any APAC games this weekend, or indeed next week either. This is due to the current pandemic conditions within Asia at the moment, so as a precaution, the league has postponed the start of the East region schedule for 2 weeks, until May the 20th. With the 7 teams within this region completing their kick-off Clash qualifier matches over a condensed 2 weeks of competition. I'll also note that due to a game-breaking bug in the Overwatch 2 beta, Wrecking Ball has also been disabled for the opening weekend. Although because we have no idea about the meta at this moment in time, I'm not really going to factor that into my predictions today. So let's now look at the games we'll be seeing in NA throughout week 1. Starting with tomorrow's matches on Thursday, which you can see I'm thinking will all end 3-1. Of course, unlike previous years, we actually have very little to go off heading into this season, so to be perfectly honest, this week of predictions will be very much a case of guessing how well each team will perform based on how I've rated them coming into this season. If you saw my power rankings video at the start of the week, which if you haven't seen I'll link down in the description below, you'll know that I have the Gladiators, Atlanta and Shock placed 2nd, 3rd and 4th within the West region, whereas New York, Florida and Paris are more towards the lower middle of the pack at 10th, 9th and 8th respectively. It's for that reason I'm not expecting blowouts, as I anticipate games might be a bit scrappier than they have been in years past, with the pro players still adjusting to the new changes and dynamics of Overwatch 2. That said, the season curtain raiser between the Excelsior and Gladiators is a match that I could see ending in a sweep, as the Gladiators just look so strong at every position, with that DPS line in particular grabbing my attention for some potential early season highlights from Arns, Kevster or Patifun. As for New York, I reckon it's going to be an uphill battle, given the limited options at their disposal, and with a lot of pressure riding on Kellen's shoulders. However, I do think their support line of Gangnam Jin and Myungbong has pop-off potential, whilst Yaki and Flora could surprise a few against seemingly much stronger opposite numbers. The series between the Shock and Paris, meanwhile, is probably the match that has the greatest chance of ending in an upset, as although I have high expectations for them, the largely rookie lineup for San Francisco could struggle with early season nerves against one of the surprises from last year in the Eternal, who themselves have only bolstered their ranks with what I think is a fantastic acquisition of Glister. That being said, I think San Francisco are able to show off their potential here, but I certainly expect this to be a much closer contest than match 1, and perhaps our first 5-map set of the season. Thursday's last contest between the Reign and Mayhem is another that could be quite an entertaining watch, with Atlanta again on paper looking the stronger squad, but I don't want to discount the exciting potential on this year's Florida squad either. It'd be really nice to see how Nero and Exi perform on their new rosters if they get a chance to show us, and I'm really hoping we get to see a showdown between the Flex supports, Ultraviolet and Sir Majid. In the end though, I think the Mayhem will need a bit more time before all the parts of their mixed roster are firing on all cylinders, and that's why I'm backing Atlanta here. Moving on to Friday, I think this is where we see a much broader range of results. The day kicks off with London's opening series of the season against a Shock side who we will know a lot more about following their match against Paris a day earlier. Now I have seen the various posts from London fans, who are certainly trying to hype up their chances this season, but against the Shock, I don't see them getting very far at all. Perhaps we see the Poco of old interchange with Haddy to set the tone on the tank line, but I just think there's an obvious mismatch here at every role, and this is why I'm predicting this series to be the first 3-0 sweep of the season. Boston vs Vancouver, however, flips entirely to the other end of the spectrum, as I'm hoping for a really close and competitive match here. Both teams boast a couple of really strong players at damage and support, with Striker and Crimzo for the Uprising, whilst there's Aspire, Shockwave and Massa on the Titans. On paper I think they look quite even, but it's the tank line where I've got to give the edge to Boston in this one, with the options of Marvel, Itzel and Punk putting the Uprising in a much stronger position in my opinion, compared to only False of Vancouver, so that's why I've got the Boston edging this one 3-2. To end Friday, we have the highly anticipated Battle for Texas, the Overwatch League's first homestand event of the year. Both of these teams come into the year with really strong rosters, and should put on a very entertaining match for both those in attendance and the rest of us watching online. For me though, the Fuel are the team to beat in NA this year, and I expect them to start the season very strongly, especially if the likes of Sparkle, Hambin and Fielder can play up to their full potential and ability. As for Houston, I think they're going to enjoy a good year, but for me Dallas is slightly better at each position, and the fact that the Outlaws lack a recognised main support player has to be mentioned, especially if the meta swings in that direction. The weekend's fixtures start on Saturday, with the final 2022 team debuts in NA, with the Toronto Defiant taking on the Washington Justice. Perhaps one of the hardest matches to predict this weekend. Both squads on paper look very talented, and right now I have them ranked in the middle part of my West Region power rankings, with the potential certainly being there for both of these teams to challenge those nearer the top of the West rankings. Yet both of these units carry with them a whiff of uncertainty and worries over inconsistency. In many ways, the early unknowns and likely chaotic pace of the first few Overwatch 2 matches may suit both of these teams. But in choosing which side to pick here, I've gone with the Defiant, as I think they're a bit more balanced overall than the Justice, particularly at the support position. But to be honest, you might as well flip a coin for this one, as you could honestly do for most of the matches during week 1 now that I think about it. From here on out, we will have seen each team play at least once, so by the end of Saturday we should have a much clearer idea as to how strong each team is in the West region. At this moment in time though, I like the benefit of hindsight, so based roughly on how I've ranked each team so far, I'm backing Atlanta to deal with New York, whilst the Gladiators should be coming out on top against Boston. Indeed, both of these series are others that could end up far more one-sided than I've currently predicted. Then to finish off, on Sunday we have the prospect of 4 excellent matches that should really affirm the West region's hierarchy come the end of week 1. Vancouver versus London, in most people's eyes, is perhaps the series that reveals the weakest team in the Overwatch League this year, with it potentially being each side's best chance at an early season victory. It could go either way given that both sides appear to match up very similarly on paper, but like in my power rankings, I've got the Titans winning here, as I think they have the better damage and support lines compared to the stronger tank options on London. Paris up against Florida, meanwhile, is my pick of the matches on Sunday, with both of these teams seemingly sharing quite a lot of optimism within the community as underrated dark horses. The reason I've got the Eternal coming out on top is due to the greater level of recent experience and team cohesion fostered at an Overwatch League level, but regardless of who comes out on top, I'm just hoping for an entertaining and exciting contest between both of these really promising sides. The quality of the penultimate match that pits Dallas against Washington I feel really largely depends on what sort of Justice side shows up. There's the potential here for a brilliant battle, highlighted by the notable 1v1 between Sparkle and Decay. That said, I'm still not sold on Washington yet, and that's why I don't have them taking it to 5 maps. Week 1 concludes with another potentially excellent matchup, as it's the Houston Outlaws up against the Toronto Defiant. Two teams that I believe are in the upper half of North America, but perhaps are just a little bit behind those in the top 4 I discussed in my power rankings on Monday. It was really hard to choose between these two teams, as although I did rank Houston higher, I do think that come the end of the season, there's a good chance that Toronto finish ahead of them. If anything though, as people know, I don't rate KDG that highly as a head coach, especially compared to Drunkbuck on the Outlaws, so that's why I'm going with Houston here, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this swings the other way come Sunday. As I've been saying all week though, none of us can truly know how everything's going to pan out, given all the unknowns at this moment in time. But now I want to hear what you think down in the comments below. What are your predictions for this upcoming first week of the Overwatch League's 5th season? On that note though, that's where I'm going to leave it today, so I want to thank you very much for watching, especially with the amazing recent support of my Power Rankings video. Until next time though, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.